Hello, Mr. Hausman. How can I help you today?
Come on, everybody, count with me. Put your hands up and count to the beat. Come on, everybody, count with me. 1 to 100 is where we gotta make it. Come on, everybody, count with me. Put your hands up and count to the beat. Come on, everybody, count with me. 1 to 100 is where we gotta make it.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hello one, hello all, and welcome to the No Vacancy podcast with me, Glenn Hausman. I'm so excited to have you here today. Oh my God, what a great week this has been. What a great year this has been. What a great time I'm having doing the No Vacancy podcast for each and every one of you. I should say before we get started that this show is brought to you in part by Duetto, the revenue strategy platform thousands of hotels are using to make more money. And really, come on, isn't that what we're all in it for? To make more money? I mean, seriously, who wants to make less money? Not me, not you, not the guy down the street, nobody. We want to make more money. So if you want to make more money and you work in a hotel, you operate a hotel, be sure to check out my recent interview with CEO Patrick Bosworth from Duetto on what you need to know all about revenue strategy. It's really important that you all have the perspective on how to make more money. And Duetto are the ones that are going to help you do it. Check it out at getrevenueresults.com. That's getrevenueresults.com. Why? Because they are going to help you make more money. Do I need to say it any more ways? No, I do not. Okay, guys, set the gear shift to the high gear of your soul. This is the 100th episode of the No Vacancy podcast. Now, show's going to be a little bit different of a format, and you would think with a 100th episode, I would go through the trouble of having on a whole cavalcade of guests to say kudos to me for making it to 100 shows, but no, that's not the case. I just want it to be me and you today. So if this is your first time listening to the No Vacancy podcast, this is not the typical format that we do. Typically in the first half of the show, I have a guest for the first segment, but today, again, it's just you and me talking. So whether you're working out, you're in the car on your commute to the office, or maybe even in a subway below the streets of New York City, thanks for taking time to listen to this show each and every week. I thank you so much. It's so important and meaningful to me that you guys are participating in this little experiment known as the No Vacancy podcast. Listen, it's been a whirlwind for me, and I just wanted to take some time today to reflect and really be thankful. And I wanted to say how blessed I really am to have everyone's support out there. It's unbelievable. So this is the 100th episode of the podcast, and first episode came out on June 2nd, 2016. And since that time, wow, I remember the first couple of days that it was out. I put it up there, and we just had a couple of downloads on the first day. Mostly, really close friends and maybe my mom, but who knows? I don't know. And you know what? These first few months were tough. I had many days without any downloads, sometimes just one or two. So it's amazing that we've done so much so far and how long it takes for something to catch on. So again, I must say from each and every cell in my body, thank you for your support, because everywhere I'm going now, people are starting to share their enjoyment of the show with me, which is amazing. It used to be I'd go somewhere, maybe one person would come up to me and said, "Hey, I heard the podcast." But so far in 2018, it really feels as if that's changing, that everybody is saying, "Hey, I listened to the show. I'm into the show. I love that interview you did. It was really great to hear that perspective. I learned a lot from the podcast." That, to me, that is incredible. That is gratifying. And that is really what I am in this for. All right, maybe to make a few bucks as well. So my mission here has always been educate, empower, entertain. And it's been so gratifying that each and every one of you are taking this trip along with me. But I thought it would be interesting to talk a little bit today about what it was like starting my own business, right? I had a secure job. I was comfortable. I was doing fine. People seemed to respond to what I was doing. But you know what? I needed to make a change in my life at the end of 2016. Now we're about halfway through 2018. It really took me a full year to get to the point where I was ready to move on and start my own business. Why? You know what? Because it can be really scary. It was frightening. It was scary. I mean, can I pay my mortgage when I quit my job and start my own business? Can I support my family? More importantly, would my family support me? Isn't that something that we always have to worry about, being able to support the family and getting that love and respect back? Will they have the confidence in you to actually make that change, to take the risk along with you? Because it wasn't just my life that I was risking to get started, right? It was my family's life, my family's welfare, my family's security. What if it all fell apart? So it took me a long time to make that decision to start my own business, because that risk, that fear, that worry of failure, how many nights I would be worried and concerned that what happens when you pursue your dream and it doesn't work out? What then? And I'm not saying that I've achieved my dream. I think finding dreams is a never-ending story, which is probably not as good as that 1980s movie, Never-Ending Story. I don't have any giant flying dog-like creatures to hitch a ride on and fly to a new land. No, I had to do it all of myself. But of course, I had to do it with everybody's support, love, and understanding. One of the things that I really missed out on is being able to make the rules and follow my gut instincts. And one of the problems that I had always constantly working for other people is not being able necessarily to follow my gut instinct and not being able to do that. Sometimes it's something I was missing out on in my entire career, right? Listening and following bosses' rules and commands and being told that it's the way it's always been done, so you have to do it that way and this way and the other way, but never my way. And I don't want to get all Frank Sinatra on you, but when you do it your way and you're in control, that is what it is all about to me. Whether you're starting your own podcast or your own hospitality industry news site, check out novacancynews.com, novacancynews.com. It's really similar, when you take that opportunity as an individual to create that small business. Maybe you've built a hotel, maybe you've created a company that's a supplier to the industry. I think we all have those same fears, those same worries, those same concerns, the things that make us stay up at night. But, it's one of those things that you just have to try. For me, at the end of the day, I quit my job and I started my life as a solo artist after leaving a successful band, I would say, because I needed to create my own path. I needed to figure out a way to move along. And one of those things that I was just mentioning is having to follow others people's rules, regulations, the way of doing things. I've never really understood that, because to me, life and your career is really about continual growth, innovation, trying out new things, taking chances, educated chances, but risk and chances nonetheless. Because if you don't do that, can you ever really ultimately find true happiness? And in the last year, 2 years, and 4 months that I've been in my own, I've really come to the conclusion that no, I don't think you could really find that ultimate happiness. Now, this might not be for everybody. Some folks really prefer to be within the structure of an organization. I get that, but I've never been that guy. I always feel like I've been masquerading, pretending to be that guy, that I could be a good corporate person, but I never really fit into the corporate atmosphere. For God's sakes, I carried I carried a falling apart backpack around with me into my 30s. I didn't want to dress like everybody. I've refused to wear ties at most events that I go to. Maybe once a year I'll pull it out, just because it didn't speak to my personality. Just because other people said, hey, these are the rules that you have to follow, didn't mean they were the right rules, didn't mean they were rules that should be followed. And I wanted to be true to my heart, be true to my soul, help me find a way to be the ultimate Glenn that I could be. And I'll tell you, it has been an amazing journey. Those first few months was scary. It was difficult. I was worried about paying those bills that I alluded to earlier on. And, it's great to see that I've had so much support from the industry at large. I mean, from amazing speaking gigs that I've had, to video shoots, to creating content behind the scenes for incredible companies. 2018 seriously has been all that I could have hoped for. It's something that seemed so impossible to achieve when I was first noodling with the idea of leaving an established company to start on my own, but to actually see it through, to actually see there is no finish line, but to see a clearing, an opening up of opportunities, because I took that risk has been absolutely incredible. And if there's something that I could share with each and every one of you, that you really should take that risk. You really should take that chance. You're not getting any younger, and every single day that goes by, you risk losing out on the opportunity to make your rules, make your own decisions. So many of us get constrained by the factors of life. You know, you get married, for example, you have children, for example, you have all those people that depend on you, and you could feel sometimes those walls that are closing in on you. You could feel that constraint that's happening to you. You could feel that your life sometimes is not all about you, all about what you want to pursue, because a lot of times you feel like you're living for others. Well, I say don't live for others anymore. Live with others. Let them support you. Let them help you. Be part of that community and find your own path. Take your chances and succeed. So I did want to take a moment to thank everybody. It helps make this show possible each and every week. In particular, my producer, Jeff Polly, who is an amazing personality. He's amazing at what he does from each and every week, helping or mostly writing those great cold opens that we have. And no one ever comes up to me and says they're funny, but that is not going to deter us at all. We are going to continue to have bad jokes at every show, mostly conceived by Jeff Polly, sometimes myself, but I seem to have this mental block every week to get that done. He also cuts the show together, makes it sound really good. So thank you, Jeff, for everything that you do. I also want to thank Bruce Ford from Logic Econometrics for being a regular guest, being an incredible on-air friend and foil to me, so we can create some great content for you whenever he's on the show. And really want to say a shout out to Duetto for advertising in this new medium. I know it's a risk for companies to try new things, and I really appreciate everything that the good folks at Duetto have done for me. So please do something for them and check out GetRevenueResults.com. GetRevenueResults.com so you can see how they can help you guys make more money. Didn't mean to turn that into a sales thing, but I can't help it. I'm really super thankful that I have support from them as well, and some other companies that have advertised here for different events and stuff, such as the Click Conference and Craig Sullivan. Thank you so much for that. And also, I want to thank all the executives that have taken the risk to come on the show. Being that podcasts aren't generally mainstream, especially in the hospitality industry, it's just starting to all kind of coalesce now. These executives take a chance to come on and talk to me. When you speak to somebody for a half an hour, you can't just speak in sound bites. You can't just speak in talking points. Your real personality starts to be revealed, who you are as a human being, and to allow yourself to be exposed in that sort of way and reveal your real personalities to myself, to my listeners, to the world. I thank you so much for taking that chance, and it's great to see all the amazing executives that I have on now each and every week. I can't believe some of the folks that I get to talk to and how fortunate I am. I also want to take a quick moment to thank the HOA board and its leadership team for embracing this No Vacancy podcast and partnering with me at their annual conference during the past 2 years, and I'm looking forward to doing that again in 2019. Again, taking a chance out there. They built me a studio at the 217 event. It was a success. We built the studio again this year, and it was supported by Red Roof this past year, so thank you, Red Roof, for that. Again, doing something new, doing something different, taking a chance, so hopefully that we could all find success. So, HOA, thanks for being such a forward-thinking organization and embracing me in particular, and giving me the opportunity to get in front of your membership in such a fun, interesting, and different way. But most of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for listening to the show weekly, or even just for the shows that really appeal to you with this particular personalities that I talk to, and sharing it with your friends, your colleagues, those strangers on the street out there. It really means everything to me to have your support. And I can see it, man. I can see it in the numbers, because our show's numbers are going up, 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 up. Just when I thought, it couldn't go any higher, it goes higher. Every single month, we're breaking records here, and it is so gratifying to me to know that, you know what, man, maybe you are onto something. Maybe I am onto something. I don't know. It's just, it feels great to just be able to talk to you guys and do what I love to do, and be able to share my insights with you and to have you respond in a meaningful way. And, this podcast has really led to the creation of that NoVacancyNews.com site. I was talking about where I'm really looking to reinvent the way news is viewed and consumed here in the hospitality business. I'm a big fan of these podcasts. I think short videos are the way to go. And I think we're in the dawn of a new era here, and I'm really trying to figure out what we're going to do. So, some things are going to be great. Some things are going to suck, but that's just the way it is because I want to take chances. I want to do things differently. I am breaking all the rules because you know what? The people that are following the rules with the way they've always been done before, they're the ones that are going to be left behind. We are entering this new incredible era right now, and I want to be able to capitalize on every single moment that we are having. And sometimes that means taking a risk and failing at it. But if you go into taking risks just like I did with this business, most of the time you're going to find you're going to be successful. But you have to be passionate. If you don't put your all into it, if you don't do if every fiber of your being, every cell in your body isn't behind you, isn't all aligned in a specific way, you will not be able to attain success. And I spend a lot of time working. I spend a lot of time here in my office at the desk when I'm not on Delta Airlines flying all around the world or speaking at an event or participating in an event. And it's an incredible investment that I put in, and I guess I have to thank my family too for allowing me to put in this investment of time because I'm not always home. I've been traveling so much this year that I'm missing valuable moments in my children's lives, for example, moments I can't get back, but I'm hoping that what I'm doing here is not perceived as a selfish pursuit of my own ego or selfish pursuit for me trying to find some sort of internal satisfaction and success, but one that will actually show my children what hard work can do and how you can be successful if you put your all into it. And I hope to be able to create something here with No Vacancy News and the No Vacancy podcast that will give my children a future, that will help take care of my family in the long run. And honestly, when it comes down to it, the thought of continuing to work for somebody as I get closer and closer to the age of 50 started to scare me because a lot of companies, when you get to that age, you cost too much money, and it's really easy to replace you with somebody half your age and a quarter of the salary, maybe even less than that. So I knew, amongst other factors, that was one reason I really needed to go ahead and start my own business. So, we got a lot more stuff to come in the future. In the next couple of months, I'm going to be launching a great design show. I've already been collecting some amazing interviews for that show with all of the top people that affect design in our hospitality business. You won't want to miss that special 20-episode limited run series coming hopefully before summer. And I'll also be launching a brand new consumer-focused podcast that I think you guys in the hospitality industry are going to love with Anthony Melchiori. You'll probably hear an ad for that after this segment. I'm super excited about doing that show. He's such a great guy, such an interesting personality, and I got to tell you, I have so much fun speaking with him on the microphone. So, all right. So, again, thank you all for your support. I've been really enjoying myself. But if you do want to put a few bucks behind supporting this show, oh yeah, here comes the shameless plug, guys. Strap on in. Go to patreon.com/novacancy. Throw me a few bucks every single month. It's not going to kill you. You know what? For less than the price of a cup of coffee each day, you can support the No Vacancy podcast. Or look, it could be $5 a month. I don't care what it is. Just if you could do that, that'd be great because. Why? Because it'll help me create even better shows for you. One of the problems that I'm having here is really being able to budget my time accordingly to be able to deliver a great show to you every week. And if we get a little bit more revenue going with this show, I'll be able to do a lot more great stuff, which will mean more listeners, more success, more interesting interviews, features, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera for each and every one of you. I would say get your boss to sign on board and pay for it. Okay? So, that's it for my spiel today. I'm very excited because I got another amazing interview coming up on the other side of the commercial break, and that's with Ken Greene. He's the president of Radisson Hotel Group Americas, and we talk about all what his life was like coming into this job, his experience in the past, what he's expecting for Radisson Hotel Group, what it's like reinventing a company over the next couple of years to create focus, to create better connections with customers, and to give more value to their hotel owners out there. So, one final word before we go. Remember this important piece of advice. It's the one important thing that I try to live my life by. I frame my whole existence on it. It's a very important piece of advice. Whatever you do, take care of your shoes. Thanks for listening, and we'll be right back after this message. Oh, yeah, and happy 100th episode to me. Woohoo!
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Glenn Hausman, and you know me from the No Vacancy podcast, but I have got an all-new show coming, and I'm partnering up with the number one guy in hospitality, Mr. Anthony Melchiori.
Now, it's called the yin and yang of hospitality.
That's right.
So I need to know going forward, because I'm a control freak, am I yin or yang?
I'm definitely the one that starts with Y, and you could be whichever one you want to be.
I'll be the one that starts with Y.
All right, so you're going to have more great banter just like this every single episode on the yin and yang of hospitality, found wherever your favorite podcasts are available. Any final thoughts?
Yes, I'm yang.
All right, I'm Ying. Thanks for listening.
Back to the show. It's No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's number one podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
So welcome back to No Vacancy Podcast. I'm here. Where am I? I'm at the Hunter Hotel Investment Conference. I think I'm in Atlanta. I'm not so sure. I've been traveling a lot, but I think I really got the Minneapolis spirit in with me today. I love Minneapolis. Minneapolis nice. I got Mr. Ken Greene, President Americas. Welcome, sir, from Radisson Hotel Group. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous, Glenn. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. It's exciting to see all the changes that are happening in the country, and I want to get the story of what this whole thing has been like and what it's been like for you. It's really neat to me to see all the changes that are happening over there. But beforehand, I want to start with the most important change: you coming on board about 8 months before us doing this interview. What brought you to now Radisson Hotel Group, and what is the experience like for you getting to be a president of the Americas of a major hotel company?
Well, listen, it's exciting. I mean, this is a transformational change for the company. And listen, I came on board after being out of the country for nine years.
You were in Asia?
So I was in Asia running Wyndham Hotel Group for all of Asia Pacific from 2009 to 12. And then I came over to Canada and was the CEO for Delta Hotels. And of course, we sold that to Marriott.
Right.
So for all intents and purposes, I've been out of this market for almost a decade, the U.S. market, which is really interesting because it's a different perspective. I think, I've come in and seen all the changes, but I haven't lived through all the changes that have happened in the Americas,
right,
or particularly in the U.S. And so I maybe have a little different point of view of what's happened. I haven't lived through it, so it's very distinctive, the changes for 10 years. So for me, listen, when H&A acquired Carlson,
right,
I was all in. I've known H&A for years. I've been
that comes from you being out in
Asia. Great company. You see a lot of things in the press. Sometimes not so good right now on H&A.
I swear I didn't do it.
But I would tell you that it's all good. They're
right,
real players. They're major players in the marketplace, and they have this really great travel vertical and our investment spending in the company. And so, for years, I looked at the Carlson Hotel Group and their brands and said, "Geez, they have this great portfolio of brands, but they're a little dusty." And geez, they could live. Life could be breathed into these brands, and there is this great growth opportunity. I think it took a new owner in terms of H&A to come in and really inject energy into the company. And of course, I rose my hand and said, "Hey, I'm here now." Now I'm here.
Yeah.
And the first thing you do whenever you come into, I think, any new organization is you take 2 steps back and you sort of get the lay of the land.
Right.
You really understand, what we're doing right, what we're doing not so well. You get out and you talk to everybody that you possibly can. Most importantly, your employees and your owners, your property owners, investors, your vendors. You talk to everybody, and you come in with no preconceived notions, but you make a relatively quick, evaluation of what you need to do.
What is relatively quick? 6 months?
Yeah, no, I would say that's 90. That takes 90 days. You have a pretty good sense at 30 days, and then another 60 days. You really can start to validate your thoughts and whether they're right or wrong. I think you go past 90 days, then that's too much time.
Right.
And urgency, I think, is important when you're changing culture. And at the same time, there was lots of changes going on because it was just not Carlson. Carlson. It was the Residor Group, which is our master franchisor out of Europe and Middle East, and really tying both of those organizations together from a global perspective with a global strategy. So there were multiple changes going on at both companies. With this really great global strategy of bringing the Radisson Blue, Radisson Red, the 8 brands that we've got globally, and bringing those together with a real great strategy. We sprinted in terms of building a strategic plan that we think was thoughtful, was meaningful, that would actually drive value, and that plan all started and stopped with the property owner.
Right. Wow. You are so easy to talk to. It's nice. I just say hello, and then you kind of give it all to me. I appreciate you making my job so much easier. But I want to get back to the important issues. You lived in Canada, so are you a big Tim Hortons fan, or do you like Dunkin' Donuts?
I would have to say Starbucks.
All right. I like that very CEO out-of-the-box answer. So you come into an organization, and a lot of times that can be a scary thing for the people involved in the organization because they know culture is going to change. They know things are going to change. Sure. And you have to be learn in that 30 days and be accepted. So what is that like, that first day that you walk into a new organization and go, I'm the guy in charge right now and I have to get everyone on my team?
Yeah, I think, listen, you come in and you send a message right away that the purpose of me being here is to grow the company, right, and to come up with the right strategies to do so, and that, again, that you're going to be talking to everybody and anybody, and to get really what we're doing well and what we're not doing well, and be open, be honest, tell me what not what you think I want to hear, but what the real reality is. And I think just having that transparency for people is really important. I'll give you a funny story. When I went over to Asia, to set up infrastructure for Wyndham, I had four employees. There was only four employees. I went over there and said, "Hey, we're going to double and double again in 5 years." The next day, I had 2 employees who quit. They did it. So nothing could be that worse. Lose 50% of your staff in one day. So let's figure that one out. But we built up a great team out there, and that was a very dynamic culture. And I never thought I'd see that, experience that energy. But it's 3 times as strong at Radisson Hotel Group. When I took over Delta's, listen, we kept half the management team and we replaced half the management team. So the things that I did in Asia, the things that we did at Delta up in Canada, very similar to what we have to do here at Radisson Hotel Group, and when I came in for Carlson. And so it's again, you have to be transparent. You ask a lot of questions. There's no no shortage of answers out there from people if you're asking the right questions.
That's good, especially if you ask the right questions. You make them feel comfortable that they could do that. To me, which is always the trick, because you said a moment ago you want to be told what you need to hear, what you want to hear, but getting people to actually deliver on that request is a lot more challenging because nobody wants to feel fearful of losing their job.
That's right.
So how do you go in and reassure people and make them feel good about it, even when there's going to be radical change probably coming ahead?
So, I mean, I think you get out and try to be as visible as you possibly can with your employees, with your owners. Again, you have a lot of conversations. I did things like we had, coffee with Ken, in the morning, just so anybody could sign up in the company. Didn't matter what level, what cross-functional, and just come in and ask. We'll just talk about what, where we're going, where I think we're going. And the idea for me, I think most importantly for a leader, particularly when you want to change sort of the culture, you want to take all the good things that existed in the culture, but you also want to breathe urgency into the new culture. And you're trying to find people that are passionate, that are customer-centric, that not a lot of ego. They're willing to roll up their sleeves and work together cross-functionally as a team. And I think that's really important, is identifying really quickly the talented people out there with the right attitude for the company. In a lot of cases, what you find, and we found this at Carlson, is that sometimes you got the right people in the wrong jobs.
Right, that's interesting.
Sometimes you've got hidden talent in the organization, and they just need an opportunity to flourish.
Right. And when you have a culture that you're trying to change, the previous culture might not have allowed those people to express who they want to be as individuals and throughout their career.
That's right. So I think phase 1 is, you identify that talent and you sort of say, okay, this is the culture we want to have, and who fits that culture, regardless of what role they have, because we can always try to, if they fit the culture, we can find the right place based on their talent.
Right.
And you find a lot of times that people have hidden talents that just, even people that have been in the organization and have known these people for 20 years just don't know, right?
Yeah, that's a fascinating thing to me. So you come in, you get hired by Radisson Hotel Group. How soon into your journey as president of the Americas, the whole notion of changing the name of the company, which is a big deal.
Actually, when I was when I was interviewing with the board, that was a strategy that was very clear that we wanted to undertake.
Right.
And Radisson Hotel Group makes perfect sense. Listen, we got 300 Radisson Blues across the world,
right.
only 3 in the U.S., but they dominate their segment, and they perform in almost any performance category you want to look at. Owner preference, performance, RevPAR index, customer service numbers. They really do dominate their segment, and the consumer impression on Radisson Blu is huge. So to be able to change our name from Carlson to Radisson Hotel Group and leverage those good impressions in Europe and Middle East, Asia, and Latin America, and bring that back to this part of the world, to the Americas, is pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue in the favor of the name change. It makes no sense because I grew up knowing the Radisson name. It made no sense.
Yeah.
I didn't know what Carlson was until I got into the hospitality business, and now that you're no longer affiliated with Carlson Wagonly Travel, for example, and some of the other brands that the company used to have. It seems to be more of a hindrance than helping you.
Yeah, no, we're fond of telling a story. I think Terry Sanders tells this story too, but
he's Chief Development.
Chief Development Officer for us, who I brought in and who I've worked with for over 25 years in different capacities. We went down to our Miami office, which is services all of Latin America. And that office has been there for, many years. And we go up to this, it's our first time visiting. So we go to the security, guard, and we say, listen, we're here with Carlson. What floor is the office on? And he looks at it, he goes, who? We said, with Carlson. Who? Carlson Hotels. And he looks at it with a blank stare. And Terry says, Radisson? He goes, oh, yeah, they're on the 10th floor. And so there you go. I mean, that in a nutshell, there is somebody that for years has been the security, at the security desk of our own office, where we office in Miami, and they refer to us as Radisson and not Carlson.
Great great insight for you. I feel a little sorry for him for not paying attention and knowing the buildings in his the companies in his building. But that's a story for another day.
That's a different story.
So the new name gives you an opportunity, you think, better to connect with the customers.
Yes.
But then you've got to be able to have brands that have clear, distinct identities that have different personalities. So I love that, how clear you are with what some of them are doing. And I hate to confess, this is the first time I'm looking at notes in a while because I can't remember all the different ones. But I love the taglines that you have. For Radisson Blu, feel the difference. Radisson, simply delightful. Radisson Red, enjoy it. Yeah. Sounds to me like that helps you clarify and frame the experience people can expect with a few keywords.
Yeah, I think it's not only for the consumer but also for the developer owner.
Right.
And so I think what's really unique for us is that we have clearly defined brands. We have one brand for every segment. We have 8 global brands, only 5 in this part of the world that we go to market with, 1 in each segment. That allows us to really put positioning statements and that consumers can grasp onto, but developers can too. We don't have 3 or 4 or 5 brands in the same segment. It is hard to peel those apart if you've got multiple brands in the same segment. It makes us unique, and it allows us to be able to do it. By the way, this isn't innovative in any way. I mean, if you go back 30 years ago and you look at great hotel companies, and when they had one brand for every segment, they all had taglines. They've gotten rid of them because they don't make sense when you've got multiple brands in the same segment.
Yeah, that's true. And when you have multiple brands in the same segment, I think it's just really confusing for everybody. One of the issues that I hear over the last 2 years, the phrase is swim lanes. Everyone's going to have distinct swim lanes. But when you have dozens of brands in your portfolio, I don't necessarily see how you can have a clear differentiation. So you seem to have a good idea on this clear delineation between the brands and how they're going to relate to consumers. I feel like a lot of the developers are like, well, the difference is $5 on ADR.
Yeah, no, and I think each of our brands, we want to have a distinct personality. Each of our brands, we want to build locality and regionality into it. So we don't want sterile prototypes being built. Radisson Blu sits them in that upper upscale, segment. Again, that should have uniqueness and tie into the market that it exists in. It is really our best experience in this part of the world. But when you get into Radisson Red, for instance, which is a really cool lifestyle, all about art and music and fashion, and that's a great product, and you can do so many fun things. From a local perspective in terms of your artwork, in terms of the graphics that you use on the walls, that really tie the community and that location into the product.
I have not had the opportunity to stay at a Red, but I have stayed at the Blue at Mall of America, for example. I think that was the first one that you did here in the United States.
No, the second one. So the first one was
they opened it close to the same time, right?
So we have two in Minneapolis, and the one in Mall of America we actually built and we own that. But you got to come and stay at the Red.
I know.
Well, so why don't we? So come stay.
I would love that. I'd love to figure that out because
we should do a show, Glenn.
Yeah.
We should do a podcast from the Red, and that would actually be very cool.
Let's do video.
I think that would actually tell a story.
All right, I think we should do a video tour of a Radisson Red so people could get to know you a little bit better. So one of the brands that I'd like to see more attention to, and I felt like in the older era wasn't, is Park Inn.
Yeah.
I almost kind of felt like Country Inn, Radisson, and then over here in the far corner was Park Inn, almost an afterthought. And I'm sure that's no longer going to be.
No, those days are long gone. But you're absolutely correct. I mean, hey, listen, Country Inn and Suites has such a great return on investment, and that thing should be, by the way, 3 times as large as it is today. That's been a core brand for us. Core Radisson, I mean, that's a brand that has great opportunity. We got to get a little bit tighter consistency across the board. But the Park Inn, we haven't done it justice in this part of the world. If you go to Europe and Asia, it is, and even again Latin America, it is a wonderful product. In fact, I just got back from Brazil, and there's a wonderful new Park Inn in Santos that is absolutely gorgeous. And so our strategy for Park Inn in this part of the world now is to bring the European prototype over here, adopt it for the marketplace. We'll be announcing very soon our first couple new construction Park Inns in the U.S., which will redefine what Park Inn is. It's a fun brand. It's a select service brand. It sort of sits in between that Radisson and Country Inn and Suites spot. A lot of excitement in the developer community because it's not that expensive to build. It's a select serve property, so sort of grab, go, and sit from an F&B perspective. So return on investment for an owner is pretty nice.
That's excellent. So what's the average size of a Park Inn?
Yeah, Park Inn can flex. So, anywhere from like 100 to 200 is probably where a sweet spot is.
Oh, that's much larger than I would have thought, because you're seeing when you look at the categories below it, 80 something.
Yeah, so I think you would probably see the 200 room Park Inn at an airport. If you were looking center city, you probably see 100. We'll probably see some 80-room Park Inns in certain locations, but I would say the sweet spot for Park Inns is about 150 rooms.
So when you say you're going to bring that European feeling here and adapt it for the American audience, what does that mean practically speaking?
Yeah, well, it just means that we want to leverage off of what's already been accomplished with a successful product. It's just bringing in that, the design, the colors that Park Inn has. It sort of has this fun sense of arrival when you walk in, and sort of whimsical as you walk through the property. And we're as we speak, we're really modifying that European prototype for this part of the world. But it's really, again, adapting it for the U.S. market, but then giving flexibility to a developer and an owner to adapt it even further for the local market.
Right. And I think, to me, that's what it's all about, is that local market, understanding the aesthetic and the needs of the customers within that local market, and giving people the flexibility within it. And you know better than anyone that if you're too rigid with the rules, then you wind up appealing to nobody in the end.
Well, I think you maybe not no one, but I think what you create is a sterile sterile experience, and I don't know if you travel, and I travel an awful lot. You want consistency. Okay, that's really important, but consistency doesn't necessarily mean having everything look 100% the right way and sort of drone on. Consistency means having, your expectations met in terms of the quality, the amenities that's going to be provided, the service levels that are going to be provided. But from a design perspective, from a feeling perspective, it's got to have some uniqueness, and that makes it really cool.
Well, I think consistency used to be that you must have this clock radio and this flowered bedspread. Now it's, to me, consistency of what you're saying, the experience that you're going to have, the feelings that I walk away with when I do that checkout.
Yeah, we want
not that I ever check out. I just go.
We want to get rid of the stupid, what I would call the stupid standards.
Right.
All right. I mean, does it really? Does that clocked radio actually drive? Room nights to a property? Does it really drive that consumer experience? And I would argue all day long it probably really doesn't.
I would argue that you look at most clock radios that are in hotels and go, the iPod hasn't had that connector in years. Well, I still see CD players in some hotels, which is really just sad. My kids came up to me and they're like, "What's a CD?" So what's going on with Country Inn? I want to say my years are always off because I'm getting so old, but I want to say about 5 years ago we reinvented the brand to be more contemporary, and I really loved it because it was the first brand that kind of adopted a new look, and I think a lot of other brands have kind of followed suit with where that's heading to, particularly being able to hide the breakfast nook and a lot of those other things. So how's that played off, and where's this brand heading to?
We're at Gen 4 right now. So we started when we first rolled out Country Inn Suites. When the Carlson family first rolled out Country Inn Suites, it was really positioned as a economy brand, and it had such success. It went all the way up to the upper mid scale very quickly. And so Gen 2, Gen 3, Gen 4 really have accomplished that. The Gen 4 has a great return on investment, and our owners really like it. I'll tell you though, this is part of changing the culture of a company and really getting back closer to your owners and being good listeners to what's going on out in the marketplace. So when I got here 8 months ago, everybody told me that a Gen 1 could never become a Gen 4. It just doesn't pencil out. And quite frankly, what we were asking an owner to do didn't pencil out. Mm-hmm. And so we thought we'd have to get rid of all these Gen 1s that we had. And we had, 3 dozen of them. Well, guys like Leo Sands and Mike Wendell and Jeff Rohr, all up in Minneapolis area, they have Country Inn Suites, and they had some Gen 1s. And they came to us and said, listen, we have a Gen 1 that we're actually investing, and we're making it into Gen 4. Now, there are some tweaks we're making to the prototype, but you should come and look. And sure enough, we did. And us as the brand owners went out to our franchisees and listened to what they were doing, and we learned a heck of a lot. We learned that we could take a Gen 1 to a Gen 4, and that there was actually certain things that they were doing from a cost-effectiveness perspective that we could build into our current Gen 4 to make it even a better, more attractive investment for future developers. That is a fundamental, I think, shift in our mindset. And it's the one when I said, listen, I've been out of the country for nine years. And now coming back in. And so I got this.
Was that your choice or America's choice to have you out of the
I'll tell you another funny story in a bit about that. But when I left, and I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this funny story. This funny story. So when I got the job to go out to Hong Kong, somebody that I worked for many years, and I won't give his name, but I wasn't working for him at the time. That's what I will tell you. Mm-hmm. And he came up to me at one of these conferences. And right before I was leaving for Hong Kong, he says, hey, Ken, he goes, congratulations. I hear you going to Hong Kong. What a great move for you. Really fabulous. I think you'll do really great on it. He goes, just know this. And I said, yeah? He goes, just know that you will always become known as the international guy, and you'll never be able to get another job in the United States. Right. So true story. So it's sort of nice coming back after 9 years and leading one of the great hotel companies in this part of the world.
I can see you marching in triumphantly.
Yeah, so it sort of goes to maybe that was a little short-sighted. I think that global experience actually is serves me really well, and in terms of really understanding what's going on in the world. I mean, the demographics, the travelers coming to this part of the world, I mean, it's huge. The number of people, 85 million coming from China on an annual basis, this part of the world is very cool. So for me, it's a different perspective, though, because I haven't lived through all the changes that have happened over the last 9 years in the U.S. And so what I have seen is this fundamental shift. And it was starting when I left, but this very, very fundamental shift that we as brand owners had a very much an owner focused. Our owners were our distribution channel. There are hotel. You can have all the consumers in the world. If you don't have hotels to put them in, and that was in the early days of this business, then you had no. If you didn't have the hotel, you couldn't place a consumer. So it was very important to make sure that you had the right location, the right markets, the right location, the right properties, and the right owners. And that's how this business was built. And those properties were really our distribution channels for consumers. One brand for every segment. And we were close. All of us in the brand business were very close to those owners because they were investing their hard capital into our brand vision, but they also had a voice at the table on how we changed those brands. And it was really compelling. Now, that started to change right before I left, but when I came back, it was all 100% consumer focus. Everybody's focused on building the best rewards program possible. It's all consumer driven. But guess what? It's at the expense of the owner base and that distribution channel. And I think that's the fundamental change that I've seen. And we are in a unique position today because, again, we are very simple, one brand per segment, that we can get back to that sort of that roots of hospitality and really focus on listening to our owners because guess what? They're entrepreneurs.
Yes.
They think differently than us corporate folks. I mean, hey, listen, I can sit in my office all day and come up with ideas, all right? Entrepreneurs actually spend their hard-earned money and take those ideas and tell you they either don't work or improve upon it.
Right, yeah.
And we should be close to them. And so that's a fundamental change in the business, shift in the business, one that I look at and say, geez, this is a real opportunity for us to capitalize on.
Right, all right. So you gave me about 40 different topics that I want to talk about in that last two minutes. But the first thing I want to talk about, I do want to talk about your loyalty program. Yeah. I do want to talk about Radisson Collection. But the thing that struck me was not just a story about you never being able to work in America again, but I love that you bring that European, world, global, Asian sensibility here to the United States because I think a lot of U.S. hoteliers become extremely myopic as to what the hotel experience is supposed to be like here in the United States.
Sure.
And as you so rightly pointed out, more Americans are traveling abroad, more folks from abroad are traveling to America, and you need to create more of a global feel with the properties. And I think that, with all your experience, gives you the edge to add some of those nuances that others might not have.
Yeah, no, listen, I think you have to have a real cultural sensitivity and really understand your demographics for each of the marketplaces. So New York is much different than, say, Madison, Wisconsin, in terms of who's going to be traveling to those marketplaces and those demographics. And so understanding demographics, what their expectations will be based on where they're coming from is very important. I'll give you an example of something that we learned with Red in Minneapolis. We took really the European bathroom design, which is, by the way, a very expensive bathroom design, very expensive fixtures in the shower area, and they look beautiful and very expensive. The number one complaint we had from our guests were the fixtures because they were European in nature and they didn't know how to use it. So then we had to go train our front desk on how to educate customers when they checked in on how to use the fixtures in the showers. Now, so here, and so it's you would have thought, wow, this is a really great bath experience, right? And Europe, it's fabulous. It's award winning. But you brought it over here. We brought it over here, and we put it in, Minneapolis, and it was the number one complaint. So those are lessons learned. So what works in one region? So Asia the same way, Latin America is the same way. There's these cultural differences, and you really need to understand that when not only from a service perspective, but from a design perspective, and how you build these things out. And so it's just over here, what we do over in America may not translate over into Europe or the Middle East or
vice versa. I know whenever I go to Europe, I have a very uncomfortable relationship with bidets.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go.
I actually knew someone who's like, "What's with the water fountain in the in the toilet?"
So I think from a design perspective and really from the physical standpoint, you got to make sure that whatever you do, will work for the general demographics. From a service perspective, and I think this is where you can really start to differentiate.
Right.
And it's really knowing the source of your guests, where they're coming from, and really starting to customize an experience for them based on where they're coming from, what their expectations might be, and it doesn't take much. They're little things, right? You know, someone coming from China and just training your front desk to say ni hao.
Right.
How about that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's very cool. Now, at that point, you know, the customer will start talking to you in fluent Mandarin, and you have to apologize. But the mere fact that you made an attempt and to understand culture. I mean, just treating to teaching our restaurant staff, right, that in this part of the world, when we cheer high, right? Mm-hmm. We put our glasses up high. In China, you put your glass down low. You toast low because that's a sign that the lower you go, the more respect you're showing to somebody above you. So now most Americans would go over to China and toast high.
Right.
They just insulted their hosts.
Right.
Most Chinese would come over here and toast low, and that has a different connotation over here as well. And so bridging that gap, just having this cultural awareness and instilling that into our culture at the property level, they're small things that mean all the difference in the world. And that's just training. And so those are exciting opportunities for us as we move forward.
That's fascinating. Yeah. So another exciting opportunity is, not surprised, you came out with a Radisson collection. Obviously, a lot of brands have moved in this direction, so it only makes sense. What's your strategy here for that particular move?
Yeah, so great question. And so we have 8 brands globally, and Radisson collection was really the conversion of Corvus collection, which we already had, right? And again, when you look at our 8 brands globally, 1 brand per segment, and that Radisson collection sort of sits up in that boutique luxury area. And so they're very unique properties, historical properties, boutique-y type of great consumer experiences that you really wouldn't want to put just a hardcore branding of Radisson Blue or Radisson on. We do not plan to bring Radisson collection into this part of the world until we establish Radisson Blue, and so this is just good branding. In Europe, we've got the rest of the world, we've got over 300 blues, well positioned. People know what blue is in that part of the world. Bringing Radisson collection in over that makes perfect sense. Right. In fact, you can actually move, and sort of our strategy there will be is to bring some of the great Radisson blues that really are probably more boutique-y in nature and move those into collection, and that's happening as we speak. And then as we bring Radisson into Europe and the Middle East, they can take some of the lower quality blues and maybe reposition those down into Radisson because that's where they're at. But blue is a very mature brand and is well known. In this part of the world, in the U.S., we only got 3 blues in the U.S. and 4 in Latin America. So it's not as well known. And so what we need to do from a branding perspective first is establish Radisson Blue. That is our core, go-to-market across the globe. That's the global brand for us. Once we establish that in a major way, and that means putting blues in key gateway cities, the New Yorks and the LAs and Anaheims and Dallases and of the worlds, get those properties in, then we can start to say, okay, now that we've established blue and people really have a very strong understanding of what blue is in the U.S., we can bring collection in over. Same thing with Park Inn, by the way. We want to establish Park Inn, reintroduce it to this market. Once we do that, then we can introduce Park Plaza, which sits above it and has its own unique. And then Prizatel's the 8th brand. That's over Europe. It's really in the economy segment. We probably don't anticipate bringing that over into this part of the world.
Right, at least now. But of course, that sort of thing can change over time. So it's great because a lot of hotel companies that are out there creating new brands, you kind of have them on the sidelines waiting to be
here's the thing. If you so again, maybe I sound like a disruptor in the business, or I'm going against the grain, or at least we are as a hotel company, but. Again, I go back to, we're just going back to the success of how great hotel companies were built 30 years ago. And so once they got saturated, they started creating new brands. I get it. I'm former CFO for Radisson Hotel Group. I mean, I get the more brands you have, the more fees you can generate, and I understand that.
Right. And for those of you who listening who don't know what Sendon was, they eventually became
Wyndham Hotel Group. And so, I get it, but at some point you're starting to take, you're starting to slice away a little bit at the return on investment of your individual property owner. Right. And so for us, it's more important for us to establish our brands in the right way. And so if we have to pass up opportunities today for Radisson Collection, so that in the short term, because we're not a public company, we're not living by the quarter, so that we can actually establish Blue in the right way, and then long term, if we do it the right way, growth will actually naturally come.
Right.
And so we don't want to force it. We want to be very true to our brand. So our strategy is a fixed core Radisson, establish Blue in the major marketplaces in this part of the world, reintroduce Park Inn with this very new cool prototype, accelerate the growth of Country Inn and Suites, and by this way, Radisson Red is just, that's just the cool, new image of Radisson, and from a developer perspective is really cool. We have our hands full with those 5 brands. Once we can, implement our strategy, start to accelerate that strategy, all right, then we'll layer in these, Radisson Collection and Park Plaza. But by the way, when we do that, they stand alone in a distinct segment on their own, and they don't compete with these other other brands, and that's important to us.
Okay, so here's my dumb question.
Yeah.
All the other companies keep saying you have to consolidate and be bigger, and have those 8 million brands.
Yeah.
You obviously think differently. Is that because you're a private company and not beholden to Wall Street, or is it just also partly just you think a better strategy for your organization?
Oh, I think it's a combination of things. Maybe call it the perfect storm in many ways. I think, listen, you have a different mindset as a private company. When I ran Delta Hotels, we were owned by a pension fund, and we were able to turn around Delta in 18 months because of. And if it was public, I would never have been able to do it. My team would never have been able to do it because you're living for the quarter. So the amount of money that we had to invest to reposition that company was tremendous over a short period of time, but we accomplished it in 18 months. Same thing with core Radisson here in this part of the world. We're a private company. We can investment spend today. We're not living by the quarter. It's really about the future growth of this company and creating value for our company and for our individual owners. So very different strategies. I think with the consolidation that's been going on so rapidly over just the last 2-3 years, it's really taken that focus from the owner to all the way over to the consumer to a whole different extreme. And I think that's an opportunity for us. I think what you're seeing out there are, 30 years ago, a guy that built a Marriott, let's not mention any brand. A guy that built a full service hotel that was a recognized brand. They were part of the success of that brand. They had a voice at the table. They picked up the phone and they called the leader of that company. Mm-hmm. That leader of the company picked up the phone and talked to him.
Right.
Today, these same guys, maybe have 40 or 50 properties. Yeah. They pick up the phone. They can't get past the director level person. They feel like they're a number. And guess what? They sort of are.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I think when you and just so happens that we haven't grown through acquisitions over the year. The Carlson family didn't really do that, and so we just so happen to have one brand for every segment. We're a private company. There's all this consolidation going on, and maybe our sweet spot is really just going back and it's not so innovative. It's just taking a page out of the playbook from 30 years ago and saying, listen, we just need to go execute as well or better than our predecessors did, and maybe we can convert some of those folks that are with other companies right now and bring them over our way.
All right, now let's watch a smooth segue. Talk about converting folks. You got to have a good loyalty program. Yeah. You just refreshed your loyalty program, Radisson Rewards.
Yeah,
is the new name for it. What makes this different than what I think was Carlson Club beforehand?
Sure. So I think most importantly is name recognition, right? So no one knew what Carlson Club was. Radisson Rewards really has a global footprint. It's a rallying cry for us across the company. Our new company name is Radisson Hotel Group, so it perfectly ties into everything that we're doing from a branding perspective. The program itself is, again, we're a relatively simple company, and so I would say we have this like closed ecosystem from a technology perspective. We haven't grown through acquisitions. We haven't pasted things on together, and so we can actually leapfrog some of our competitors in terms of functionality, and that goes to the rewards program, our central reservation system, our revenue management platform. So we're investing in significantly to make it more robust for the consumer experience, easier to book, easier to redeem your points, to earn your points as a member. From a property owner perspective, we've made some rule changes that are really quite significant and a huge financial investment on our part. Most notably, if you enroll somebody at the property in the past, on that enrollment stay, the property would have to pay the rewards fee.
Yep.
We've taken that out.
Cool.
So the biggest thing that a reward program can do is to convert third-party business that was booked on the OTAs. They come to your hotel. You spend a lot of money as a property owner to acquire that piece of business from an OTA, 20% margin, whatever it is, and your opportunity is to convert them into a rewards member when they show up. In the past, if you had to pay a fee to do that, well, there was a deterrent. We've waived that, and to the tune of millions and millions of dollars that we're eating as a company. So now that OTA customer comes in, they've booked on the OTA. The owner's got only 80% of the room rate instead of 100 or 95. And now they come into the property, and there's no reason why we shouldn't, at the front desk, be enrolling them in the rewards program. And once we do that, by the way, we start to market to those folks in various ways. We start to customize programs for them. Those folks end up coming back more often. They actually, when you rate them when they give you fill out their surveys, they actually rate you higher for the same room, but because they feel like they get more value from the program. And so, really important for us, and one of the big drivers for our business is, and the way we're going to continue to grow our distribution pie is through the rewards program. And so that's really the umbrella that ties everything that we're doing together, and that's really the consumer focus. That's our primary consumer focus.
Excellent.
Yeah,
I love it. Well, we've been talking for a long time. Anything else that you want to add? Because I know we're running a little long here, and you got deals to close.
Yeah, no, I think listen, whenever you go through a major transformation and a culture change, it all comes down to having you have to have the right plan. You got to have the right systems in place. You got to have the right metrics that you're looking at, but you got to have the right marketing. It always comes down to having the right people and in the organization as employees, and having the right customers. In this case, that's our property owners that really buy into what we're doing, and it's really exciting. I really, truly believe we'll look back 10 years from now and say this was one of the great growth stories this industry has seen in the last couple of decades.
All right, 2028. I'm playing this clip back for
you. Yeah, I hope. Please do.
Awesome. All right, Glenn. I really feel like we've talked about an awful lot, but I feel like there's so much more we can talk about in the future.
Oh, well, at the Red.
Yes, I would love to have you on again in the future, and we'll get together and do lots of things. And for all of you out there listening, if you don't subscribe to the newsletter, do it now. Pick up your phone that you're probably listening to this on right now. Text the word hotel to 66866. That's the word hotel to 66866. And you'll get our weekly newsletter and all of the insight that you need to be more successful in your hospitality business. Ken, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Glenn. We appreciate it.
And thanks to all of you guys for listening week after week to the No Vacancy Podcast. I'm having so much fun to do it, and I'll be back next week. That is, unless I decide to run off to Minneapolis and go hang out at a Radisson Red. See you guys soon.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.